I'm not going to another firm. I'm starting my own.
Wow. Double barrel. Boom, boom.
Just like that.
If things were reversed, I hope you know that I would do the same for you.
Each week we break down another Better Call Saul episode in order. This one's a fun one, and I've got 75 details you might not know in Season 2, Episode 8.
Fifi.
We begin at the border, and this man's red shirt is no accident. If only Border Patrol realized that criminals wear red in this universe. The episode starts with a continuous-looking 4-minute and 20-second shot, although there's much more to it than meets the eye, and we'll get into that. It was all director Larissa Kondraki's idea to shoot this as a oneer, and pushed for it despite Vince, Peter, and Tom's fears about pulling it off. This is also the last episode she'll direct, although I'm assuming that's a coincidence. Like Jimmy, she was inspired by Orson Welles. This sequence is based on his Touch of Evil movie, which also starts with a oneer at the US-Mexico border. Those who picked up the reference might have been more tense watching this episode, expecting the scene to end in disaster. The song playing in the background is part of the original score from composer Dave Porter, his longest composition for either Better Call Saul or Breaking Bad, except for his music during the Dead Freight heist scene. To achieve this continuous shot, the camera operator with a Steadicam walked off a crane right here onto a platform on a golf cart, all while continuing to film. The Graphite Lines truck passes the initial check and turns right to enter the US, but the ice cream truck is chosen for an extra inspection. If you didn't already suspect a Salamanca connection, this license plate is a clue. The director wanted to highlight the process working, so here you can see a driver start to get handcuffed, and as we come around the back, he is now being taken away. After a thorough inspection of the ice cream truck, they find nothing wrong and the driver is free to leave. Hey, isn't that shrinkage?
Dude, it's called breakage.
This is where the oneer stops, although they had filmed another whole minute and a half of him getting in the truck and driving away, and the camera operator getting back on the crane for a final wide shot. They cut it for time. The first cut of this episode was 12 minutes too long, so I'll be pointing out other big cuts as we go. There's a lot of subtle CGI in this scene, and because of it, this episode was nominated for a Visual Effects Emmy. Of course, it didn't win, as the show famously had a record-breaking 53 nominations with 0 wins. This was filmed by the Double Eagle Airport in Albuquerque, the same spot as the later airplane scene, so they digitally removed the control tower in the background. They based this stage border on the Santa Teresa border crossing in New Mexico. This covered checkpoint was only partially built. They put black cloth on the top so the trucks passing through would be properly shaded. These signs weren't really installed into the ground, so they removed the bases. This long road and the endless line of trucks is fake, and this airplane hangar was erased. The gate was also artificially extended, and the barbed wire is digital. They had to keep digitally altering the checkpoint way in the background, although they left the previously removed hangar visible here. Vince said they could have erased it, but thought it would be a fun Easter egg to leave in. The truck was digitally lightened here, and you can see some artifacts around the guy because of it. And this guy is a digital wipe connecting 2 different shots. They did this so they could light the truck better, including its inside, for real. They should have called in the expert for this. The first shot was filmed at the start of the day, and the second shot was at the end of the day, so they modified this quite a bit to make it blend well. The doors were lower, probably for lighting reasons, so they fixed that, and as a result, you do lose the view of a sliver of wall after the guy walks past the camera. After the wipe, the guy is now sharper and lighter thanks to the real increase in lighting. And after we zoom back out from the truck, they didn't bother fixing the doors, so they all appear to have magically lowered during those 19 seconds. As you might expect, the computer screen content is also digitally replaced, although the computer is another casualty of discontinuity from the shot stitching. And now we enter a very Breaking Bad-like segment, starting with this Beetle shot. This road is the same spot where both Los Pollos Hermanos trucks were attacked in Mexico in Breaking Bad, and where the police stopped Walt with a broken windshield. The popsicle is meant to convey how much time has passed to us, but Tom Schnauz, who wrote this episode, intended it to be a bit of a timing device for the driver as well, so he'd know when to look out for mile marker 10. And there's a Breaking Bad style magically clear surface, very rare to see in Better Call Saul. And that's stick number 22, not a counter, so this guy clearly does this a lot. The slogan on the sticks matches what's on the truck, from our family to yours. The familia part was imagined even before the script was written.
La familia es todo.
The name of the brand translates to frozen gift. If you don't like tarantulas, look away for a moment because I said I would show it this time. With the title sequence, there's a natural transition from one ground scene shot to another, although it just worked out that way. Season 2 title sequences follow the same order as Season 1, and Vince stated there was no deeper meaning to the ordering of the images. They wanted to make them seem random. The deeper meaning will come later. Another coincidence with this being the Episode 8 title shot is that the crew found a tarantula in the desert while shooting the teaser and tried to film it walking past the popsicle popsicle sticks, but they couldn't get the timing right.
You know, I was willing to take you to a more high-end establishment.
Like Whataburger.
This requires a proper celebration, so don't think that this counts.
This is perfect.
Of course, Doghouse is recognizable from Breaking Bad. It's not far from Chuck's house and Jesse's house. And it lives at 1216 Central Avenue Northwest, so perhaps Jimmy's scheme later in this episode is an homage to this spot. The show appears to have modified these prices because they're all appropriately a bit cheaper than they were in Breaking Bad. However, they only did this for the first section, as the rest of the prices are all slightly more expensive than in Breaking Bad. Of course, today everything's gonna cost you more than double what Jimmy, Kim, or Jesse had to pay.
We're pinching pennies now. When we have a steady revenue stream, make the drive up to Geronimo every night.
Geronimo is a fancy restaurant in Santa Fe, considered one of the best in the US.
Type up your resignation letter. Put that letter into Howard's office tonight. Tomorrow morning, while he's still out on the back nine chasing his balls, you get to him before he does.
No.
It is common etiquette for a lawyer to tell their employer before their client, and this highlights another example of Jimmy and Kim's different approaches.
He'll sink his dirty hooks into Mesa Verde before you get the words "I quit" out of your mouth.
The whole point of this is for you to be your kind of lawyer and me to be mine.
This scene was also originally much longer. It featured Jimmy making a colorful reference to Jerry Maguire frantically calling his clients after getting fired, but alas, I can't count it.
Hey, Kim, can we make this quick? I'm kind of swamped right now.
Maybe today is an anomaly, but Howard's schedule seems pretty open to me. It reminds me of Ted Beneke's sparse calendar.
What's up?
Howard, could we do this in your office?
Go ahead and rip off the Band-Aid. You're going with Schweiger and Coakley. I heard, through the grapevine.
I'm not going to another firm. I'm starting my own.
Wow. The week Jimmy exits Davis in Maine, you decide to leave us? That can't just be happenstance.
It's not. We're going to be sharing expenses. One office, but 2 separate practices.
Smart. On several counts.
I'm grateful for everything you and the firm have done for me, especially the financial help with my schooling. And I'm ready to write a check for the remainder of the loan.
No need. Our gift to you.
From our family to yours.
I don't know what to say. Thank you.
You earned it.
Wow, maybe Howard's not such a bad guy after all. So why did he do this? According to Tom, he was ready to rip into her until she said she was going out on her own. That moment of surprise helped him to remember what's so special about Kim, and he respects that she's willing to do this bold thing that he had wanted to do. Along with that, he probably feels a little guilty for how he treated her.
Tell you the truth, I'm kind of envious.
Really? Why?
Something about a fresh start.
He does seem like he's under a lot of pressure to keep HHM running smoothly, and Chuck only seems to add to that burden.
Back in the day, right out of law school, I thought long and hard about hanging up my own shingle. Dad talked me out of it, wanted me to join the ranks here. Throw another H in the firm's logo.
Another one. Another one. Another one. And another one.
I want you to know that I always pushed you harder because I knew that I could expect more from you.
I just don't think that lines up with his doc review punishments.
You never walked out of Mesa Verde. I canceled everything I had lined up this morning.
He'll sink his dirty hooks into Mesa Verde.
For Kim's head to be seen above the dividers, they built a ramp for her to run on.
Sorry. Hi, Paige.
That's a rookie mistake to not have her cell phone on her.
Checking that we're still on for lunch on Monday. Before we meet, there's some news you need to know about.
Mike's still observing. One thing I just observed is this is just down the road from Nacho's dad's business. But where's the...
Pimento sandwich.
Hector drives a 1960 Chevy Impala.
I am not the safe choice. I believe, however, that I am the
Cowboy.
right choice.
Why?
She's like, if Kim can look straight into the camera, then I can too. The restaurant in real life was Elaine's, another acclaimed restaurant, but it closed in 2018.
I know your bank's needs in regard to this expansion, inside and out. Having Mesa Verde as my sole client will take up the entirety of my attention. But if this were beyond my abilities, I wouldn't be throwing my hat in the ring.
Originally, the bank's name was West Mesa, and Kevin's name was...
Cowboy.
No, Larry. Maybe they changed the company name so it wouldn't have the same initials as Wexler McGill. The staring lady and her friend were walking to the front door almost a full minute ago, and here they are doing it again. The samba playing in this restaurant wasn't released until 2012, similar to the one that played in the nail salon last season.
Oh, hey, Kim, we're in here. Everything okay?
You only get a quick glimpse of it, but the rainbow was Vince's idea and a last-minute addition.
Wow.
2 offices for 2 dentists, each the exact same size with a mirrored layout.
Although only one person gets a grander door with a side window. This is a real office, for now, and the property owner actually allowed the show to move one of these doors to make it symmetrical.
They share one lobby, egalitarian as hell. I think this is the place. Kim, do you mind if we just...
Oh, please.
Okay, I'm getting mixed signals here.
It kicked ass. I had an answer for every question. When Kevin wasn't looking, Paige gives me a thumbs up. But not the regular thumbs up, the double thumbs up.
Double barrel. Boom, boom.
Just like that.
Kim gave Jimmy those same double thumbs up when she thought HHM was hiring him as a lawyer.
God, it was perfect.
She could see the Matrix.
I love seeing you like this.
So we're gonna keep these chairs?
Does that mean you like this office?
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
This scene got steamier from here with Jimmy and Kim both getting in the dentist chair, but once again they had to cut it for time.
Ernesto, the door's open.
It's me, Chuck.
Oh, hey, Howard.
It's likely that we're losing Mesa Verde.
Losing them. We just got them.
They're going with Kim Wexler. She left the firm.
Oh, Howard. Where's she going? Is it Rich Schweikert? Reeves and Green yet?
The lore about local law firms continues.
She's going into private practice.
What? How is she going out on her own?
She's pooling her resources with Jimmy.
Kim and my brother. Partners at law. He's Svengali.
Svengali is a character who seduces and exploits a younger woman, originally in the 1894 novel Trilby.
The man is Svengali.
At any rate, back to Mesa Verde.
This is a split-screen edit to change the timing between the left and right side because they removed some Howard dialogue. I must admit, I do this pretty frequently as well, such as in the last episode.
I'll write you a check.
Fine for whatever good that does. Fine
Take
for
your
whatever
desk and
good
get
that
out.
does. Take your desk and get out.
And just a moment ago,
The man is Svengali.
At any rate, back to Mesa Verde. Back to Mesa Verde.
the lines they removed were Howard explaining that Jimmy and Kim weren't really partners, so people were left wondering if Howard purposely let Chuck believe they were to manipulate him into helping, but that was not the intention. Still, how much of his motivation was helping HHM versus the fact that it was Kim who took them?
I managed to get a meeting with Kevin Wachtel. He's coming in this afternoon. But compliance law is not my strong suit.
His strong suit is posing handsomely in a literal suit.
Chuck.
Wow, he even grabs the suit without a space blanket.
I'm going to that meeting.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
And I've been getting better.
He was right in the very first episode.
I'm going to get better.
The message that we want to send.
I know the message. That we appear professional and not crazy.
For he is not crazy.
The lights stay on. Everyone keeps their phones. Everything stays normal. I will make it through.
You're here.
Thank you both for coming.
They could have easily done without the table lights to make this a tiny bit easier on Chuck.
You've already had to suffer through Howard's hard sell first time around.
I gave them cookies.
Cookies were good, as I recall.
Maybe the cookies and fruit plate is Howard's premium package.
Kim Wexler is indeed the right choice to handle Mesa Verde.
She's the obvious choice.
She's young, she's brilliant, she's the future. Two old guys like us, we're the past.
In real life, Patrick is only 8 years older than Ray. The light switch is still taped, so maybe it has nothing to do with Chuck's electricity issue.
Let me tell you how boring I am. I read FEC and ISO reports for entertainment.
Paige's wardrobe follows Kim's trend of going from HHM blue to a mostly darker palette.
You forget about things like, the Community Reinvestment Act. Duh. Obviously. You guys have all that covered, I'm sure.
Chuck passive-aggressively implies that in spite of Kim's enthusiasm, she could easily miss something that would be extremely costly to Mesa Verde.
Navigating that correctly could mean savings of several $100,000.
They know that, Howard? I apologize. Your bank is in excellent hands.
I have complete confidence in Miss Wexler.
You should. She learned from us. But no matter how talented one individual may be, the needs of Mesa Verde are too big to handle alone. I wouldn't handle your coming expansion alone.
Glad we did this.
Originally, what was going to convince Kevin was simply undercutting their prices, which is exactly what Jerry Maguire tried.
I would cut my commission.
We are there for you day and night. You were fantastic. Truly. Oh, Chuck?
Get me home. Get me the hell home.
Ernie!
This is sped up, but it's funny to watch Ernie throughout the scene.
You were fantastic. Truly. Oh, Chuck? Ernie! Hang on.
For a war hero, I think we can bend the rules a wee bit.
We're back at the Double Eagle Airport, and back here somewhere is where they did the border crossing scene.
You excited?
Yeah, excited.
Gentlemen, meet Fifi, the world's last airworthy B-29 Superfortress.
This was true until about 6 weeks after the episode aired, when Doc became the second flying B-29. Fifi was named after the wife of the Air Force veteran who helped rescue the plane from a scrapyard.
Isn't she a beauty, Fudge? Just like the one you used to fly.
This certainly must bring back some memories for you. Too many to count, he says.
Thank you for your service.
He says you're welcome.
She says yes.
I mean, the stories you must have heard. You remember any good ones?
Bombing
stuff.
Mostly.
Like the war.
You need some water?
I can run back to the office, get him a bottle.
Captain Bauer was supposed to be played by Ryan Ahern, but he got violently ill right after filming started and couldn't continue. This was a huge problem because it was the only time they could film with Fifi, so they filmed the rest of the scene that didn't involve the captain while they scrambled to find someone approximately the same height and build. And they found Brendan Fair, who was filming the night shift in Albuquerque at the time. He got there in an hour and a half, quickly learned his lines, and fit perfectly into the costume. In this shot, and only this shot, it's actually Ryan, the original actor, before he got sick. The guy flying this helicopter is Steve Stafford, the same pilot who flew the plane in Salute. He also appeared as a DEA agent once in Breaking Bad.
Where the hell did you find this guy? You couldn't get a real war hero?
I defended him a while back when he couldn't pay.
Defend him for what?
Public masturbation. Total bullshit.
They created the Fudge character specifically for this actor who originally auditioned to be one of the bus people in Amarillo. His audition was so funny and weird and involved doing the CSI Miami sunglasses maneuver that they wanted to use him for something more interesting. Tom named him Tim Talbot, a writer he knows who wrote the Stanford Prison Experiment, a movie that includes Lyle, who we'll meet in the future. However, they couldn't get permission to use that name, so they went with Fudge Talbot instead.
Let's go! Chop, chop!
You couldn't just plop the dude in front of a flat?
That's not a bad idea.
Start the dolly.
Once again, they must go with a non-traditional dolly.
You fought the Nazis.
Fought the Japanese.
Why don't you shut up and learn to take some direction?
Japanese.
Fudge is correct, as the B-29 was deployed exclusively in the Pacific. However, his patch appears to belong to the 34th Bomb Squadron, which could match Jimmy's story, except they flew B-1s rather than B-29s.
Shit.
Man, I'm at your brother's end. He's bad. Shaken. I've never seen him like this.
Ernie's wearing this tie with whales all over.
Wrap him in a space blanket.
He's already under one.
Wrap him in a second one.
No doctor?
Chuck will be fine. Oh, I gotta go. Rhubarb. Rhubarb.
Even their code word is related to red.
Sir!
Jimmy thinks he's busted.
This is not a problem.
Would you mind if the guys and I took a picture with you?
Everybody line up.
Fudge's blanket and the equipment under it has disappeared.
Jeez.
And now it's back. The captain's wearing Army pilot wings, which are smaller than Air Force pilot wings and have thinner tips. And supposedly he wouldn't wear a hat on an active flight line because it poses a foreign object damage hazard if the wind blows it off. They were fighting weather and sunlight changes a lot in this episode, especially in this scene. They did a great job making shots from these two extremes blend naturally.
You ready to sign? Let's do this.
I lost Mesa Verde.
What happened?
They're sticking with HHM.
Kleinfeld was a dirty lawyer in the movie Carlito's Way, but in this case, Kleinfeld Commercial Brokerage is simply a real Albuquerque business.
Kevin got his head turned.
By Howard?
Chuck. You still up for doing this?
Oh, nothing's changed. There will be other Mesa Verdes.
He has been consistent on this point.
There will be another Mesa Verde.
You still want to do this?
Jimmy unknowingly repeats the Howard maneuver toward Kim, but with a positive spin. He's got an idea, but again, how much of it is driven by helping Kim and how much of it is driven by sticking it to Chuck? For the second time in this episode, 2.5 minutes are devoted to one of Mike's signature no-dialogue scenes. The plan for this scene was to go longer as well, with Hector and the ice cream truck parting ways, and Mike surprisingly following the ice cream truck.
Jimmy, I did everything you said, but he's not getting any better.
You did good, Ernie. Why don't you go home and get some sleep?
He told me he wanted me to stay.
It's okay. I'm here now. Next time you see Howard, tell him you need a raise.
I think there are two there, plus I'm going to assume Ernie followed Jimmy's instructions.
Chuck, buddy.
Valiant Printing was a real 100-year-old business, although it closed a year after this was filmed. The show brought in period-appropriate vintage copy machines.
I need an X-Acto knife, hammer mill premium paper, and a glue stick. Oh, and point me to your best copier. Didi Mao.
That's a grammatically incorrect way to say hurry up in Vietnamese, popularized by the Deer Hunter. It could be a colorful reference, but I'm going to assume we're meant to believe he picked up the phrase from Mrs. Wynn. The montage music is by Little Barry, who did the show's theme song. We know that Mesa Verde is planning an expansion, and these documents are all related to the purchase and development of 1261 Rosella Drive in Scottsdale, Arizona, which Jimmy is switching to 1216. They filmed for 30 to 40 consecutive minutes while Bob just did the work. Jimmy's years of working in the mailroom at HHM seem to have given him useful skills. In the next episode, we'll find out another reason he'd be good at this. In real life, Bob's dad worked in the printing business and would assemble custom forms, so Bob has it in his genes. The actor who plays Lance the copy guy is wearing his own shirt that he auditioned in because the costume designer felt she couldn't top it. None of these documents have dates, which is unrealistic for such important legal documents, except for the parking demand study, which says October 2002, even though we should still be in September. And it feels like Jimmy's comparing the original versus revised documents throughout this montage, similar to this. But in all these shots, both sides actually are the unaltered versions with 1261. They're all just stage 1 of the process, right before he cuts out the numbers on the left to apply on the right. Check out one of the local community service foundations that Mesa Verde partners with, Scott's Tots.
What's Scott's Tots?
The internet has tracked down this map to a real bank in Scottsdale, although the road names were changed. The purchase price of this property was almost $1 million. They didn't get all the document close-ups filmed at the copy shop, so they filmed more at other sites like HHM. Here's a shot of their HHM setup with someone other than Bob being the on-camera hands. This episode now shares 2 things with the Better Call Saul episode of Breaking Bad that introduced Saul.
Public masturbation.
That ain't me, man.
Sorry, that was a little transpositional error.
Not only that, but both of these episodes are Season 2, Episode 8. Originally, the address was going to be 1280, changed to 1820. I wonder what caused them to change it. The transformation to 1216 is complete. Jimmy understandably took his tie off while working, although he puts it back on for the drive, then takes it off again. If last episode was the anachronism episode, this might be the discontinuity episode. This does seem to be Chuck and his mom. Jimmy moved the 2 boxes back to the floor, but in this shot, one is back on the desk.
He emerges. Good afternoon.
Where's Ernesto?
He spent the better part of a day watching you do your impression of a baked potato. I told him to go home, get some shut-eye.
Throughout this part, the clock on the mantle says 1:05-ish, and Chuck's watch says 1:40-ish.
Really doing a number on yourself, spending so much time out of the house. Couldn't stand to let Kim have Mesa Verde. You had to swipe it from her.
I didn't swipe anything. We retained our client.
You and Howard never even heard about Mesa Verde till Kim brought it to you on a red velvet pillow.
If you're looking for a fight, Jimmy, I just don't have it in me. If things were reversed, I hope you know that I would do the same for you.
Tom thinks Chuck is sincere here, and you're supposed to wonder if Jimmy might undo what he just did because he feels bad. Bob isn't so sure that Chuck is sincere. And then there's the ironic interpretation of this.
I hope you know that I would do the same for you.
Jimmy double-crossed Chuck by sneaking out while Chuck was sleeping, and Chuck indeed did the same to Jimmy last season when he snuck out to call Howard while Jimmy slept.
Can I do the gel now?
Now you're gonna have to wear these.
Why don't you have to wear them?
Because Pop-Pop's a grown-up.
This isn't going to trigger a reaction every time. There are way too many Pops and Pop-Pops.
You got it?
There's several continuity issues here.
Good job.
Can we do more?
We're back here.
What's all this?
I need marks every 3/4 inch.
You sure about that?
I needed a soaker for the rhododendrons out back.
Well, Pop-Pop's gonna have to finish this project on his own because we have to go.
Well, we're not done yet.
Close, but that doesn't count. This is a sign that Mike's not really using this to water his rhododendron. He's getting his and Kaylee's fingerprints off.
Oh, listen, Walter.
And then this is also a pretty good sign. Mike's watching a movie called His Girl Friday.
Grams, Bengali.
The creators said they're just fans and it was on the list of movies they can use because they're cheap or free. However, the main character's name is Walter and this dialogue sounds awfully familiar.
Well, it would have worked out if you'd been satisfied with just being editor and reporter, but not you. You had to marry me, spoil everything.
So long, Walter.
Goodbye, Walter. Oh, Walter.
We keep looking at the finish board that led to the script, but this in progress one shows that the episode originally was going to end with Mike and Nacho meeting because Nacho figured out Mike is up to something. On a final note, I agree with Golden Goose that Fudge would have been a better name for this episode. I know Vince was enamored with Fifi, but Fudge not only references the fake hero, but Jimmy's fudging of the numbers, and it maintains the F starting letter. Congratulations and thanks to the new 1-year members! Gordon Bird, Orion Kettle, Logie Bear 1707, John Curran, Zalek, Witchy Bunny, General Merrick, Legosis, Atmosphere, I Can't Bite Ice, Yoon, Nosy, Edgar, and Mike Elfers. And to the new 6-month members! Shane Murphy, Big Burb 92, Oris, Julius, DeWatzers, Zahai, Philippe Moriera, Dogfish, Patrick, Down Bad Buns, Connor the Greatest, Miko and Zero Emperors, JD Young, Better Watch Me Watch TV Tonight Before Going to Sleep, Mohammed Nahad, Brian Stern, Infinity Cow, Its Enzyme, Eric, Dead Pat, The Music Guy, Kinetics, Mercy's Fine Hips, Fluffy Misty, Lobster Dog, Nate, Tolis, The Lonely Millennial Chris Daniels, Logan Kennedy, Max the Doom, Rainbow Shoddy, Emil ED, Vidoop, Fungus, World Be Free, Jake Dufresne, Terag, Carlos Castillo, Toner Cartridge, Scarebank, Luis Terrazas, Button Bob 08, Alec L, Grady Hamilton, Jason Flex, Tagogilo 11, I'm F***ing Invincible, Canny, Peak Fandoms, Kroots, and Toby Pickle. Say hi to the new members, Thomas Theorist, Zadad Higsed, Roof Tartet, Matthew Matusiak, Mug Maniac, Moto Kiefer, Taco Eater, Jinx, Basilisk, Reaper GU, Jason Allen, Urky Penipatary, Janky Green, Armored Artichoke, Henrik Krautstein, Mac Dane, Pefs, Leonardo Dello Russo, Miles Bell, Jack, The Real Nathan, Nakaya Levasseur, Adam Hickey, Miklo, Fish, Don, Paul DePleur Gaming, Bumbleface, Batpug, Daniel Alarte Rincon, How You Buy That, Reese Prime, Catpson, That Hat, DeLoki, The Adman, Assblaster 9000, Judge Greg, Seton, Star Centurion, COD Team-Ups, Curry Cats, 5x7, Gabriel Milligres, Tom Barber, Addy J, Mark Guidel, Foob, Vigar Dishnish, Turby, Havel, Rhett, Fioto, Jo, Average Saturday Morning, Kipnop, Monk, Zachary Myers, Frito, Antonio Vasquez, VLXV, Zvizopia, Samuel Wolford, Crippy Archive, Askell Fangle, Michael, Thalen Carthy, Bella, Thobby 120, Sam, Rodrigo Productions, 1551, Tyre Ronco, Replay MC, Killing, Capitan Cuba, Gordon L, Hazel, Brady Neal, Timbo, Franklin Long Rifle, Luke Stephenson, Tade Burgess, Jimbu, CB Productions, Dennis Sherbakoff, Rabby V, Noah Sigrist, Potent, Tiger, Tria Tharva, Boards VHS Pile, Hoop Scoop FR, Luke David, The Wizard, Los Angeles, Elliot Wilson, and G36 Enjoyer. Next week, it's the Pina Colada episode.
Here.
Because it's like I'm going through the motions, but I'm not getting any credit for on the SAG Awards. I want to get a fucking eating award.
You have to do what I did. I want food coming out.
It's not about quantity.
I pushed you harder than all the others because I knew. I have no idea what I'm saying. Because I knew. Help. I could expect more from you. Nina's parents are watching. This is very embarrassing. It really is.
I would expect more.
Thank you. That's easy. You guys know it, right? All right.